Welcome to the extended edition. This week we are talking about the Friends in Your Head podcasts with Teague Chrystie, who's sat down in front of his computer to have a chat with us.
Jones is dead. I killed him.
With me, as always, is Owen Ward in Liverpool.
Hello, hello, hello.
And Tomahawk in Norway.
You know, my name isn't actually Tomahawk, but hi.
He lied to us.
Is this an exclusive?
I don't feel very exclusive, but if you want to feel that way, I'm happy to lie about it.
Live and exclusive. His name is not Tomahawk. It's Tom. It's plain old Tom.
Hi, boys. How are you?
Fan-dabby-dozy.
That's not a way to be.
It is. It's
In the
only way
chat
to
room,
be.
Perk is calling my voice delicious.
Hmm.
You know, the more you know.
I gotta find this chat room and see what they're saying about my voice.
It's on French in your head, actually. Just
It's your own damn chat room.
All right, yeah. So I hope that you're logged into the forum because apparently the chat room that we're paying attention to is the one at the bottom of the forum at friendsinyourhead.com/forum.
So, Teague, the podcast, you decided to end it. Why?
It's sort of a house of cards, which is weird because that's also the name of a thing. But no, the show that was at the heart of all of the stuff that we were doing podcast-wise was What Are You Doing Movie, which was formerly Down in Front, a commentary show that we started in 2009, and we set up so that we could do commentaries for movies that we liked. And at the time, we really didn't have any particular intention with the commentary show. It was just an excuse to make fun of the Phantom Menace. But over time, as we continued to do it, we found that there was so many movies that we loved and adored and wanted to talk about, but beyond the normal just making fun of movies or saying why we like them, we found this purpose in it that trying to understand how movies work and if they don't work, why they don't work, and if they do work, why they work, was really interesting, and we ended up going on this weird 5-year mission to explore screenwriting theory. And ultimately, other little spin-off shows happened off to the side of it. Like we had Intermission and then Documentality and Uncomposed, and then you guys are like the Pluto. Like you're in orbit, but it's like it's not really a planet, it's just, I don't know what it is. It's a thing. But at this point, if you guys want to be on the website, it could just be your show. You could be your podcast now.
That's legally binding.
It's just like you go to like Martin's face, like, hey! But we got to the point where those other little ancillary shows were happening on a 3 or 4 times a year sort of basis. Most of the time it was the podcast, the commentary podcast. And we had done like 250 commentaries, and we had gone from movies like Jurassic Park and Star Wars and Indiana Jones and things that we strongly have opinions about, to like Silent Running and like it's like that's a movie that is definitely, it deserves observation and insight and critique, but the question becomes, and I put this to the listener right now, did you listen to the Silent Running commentary?
I did, but I never watched the movie.
Wow, that makes you very. I like you a lot. But
I
generally
get
speaking,
a lot.
like you get past the point where you're doing commentaries for Pulp Fiction and Avatar and stuff, and now it's like really don't care enough about these to sort of keep doing them. We've sort of said everything we had to say about the things that we really wanted to talk about, and to try to like just arbitrarily step up the production of all the other shows wasn't really realistic to maintain our once-a-week schedule because, Eddie's show, Documentality, is hard to do, and he's a busy man with kids and a job and stuff, and Uncomposed is trying to get together like it's like a 3-body astrophysics problem with the schedules of 3 composers working in Hollywood. I'm free all the time. I can do these all the time. But finding people, finding like a hole in everyone's schedule is just a huge pain in the ass, and you can't realistically ramp it all up. So when you pulled out the commentary show, like, all right, well, we're done with that, maybe we'll do something else, it suddenly becomes like, are we going to be a website that releases like between 2 and 7 podcasts randomly a year with absolutely no schedule? Because that's all we can be with what we have available to us. And the answer was, nah. Let's do a thing whenever we want to. Like when Star Wars comes out, we'll do a commentary probably and things like that. But let's just totally take out the formal requirement of it's our responsibility to keep releasing content, and have it be a thing only where it's like, all right, we really need to talk about Chappie or whatever. I don't know if I haven't seen Chappie yet. But generally speaking, it was like, you pull out the commentary podcast and the whole house of cards falls down. And it's okay. It's time. It's not like we're turning it off when we could be doing commentaries for stuff that everyone cares about, because we've already done the commentaries for the movies everyone cares about, like E.T. and Back to the
Part two. Part
Yeah,
two.
but they didn't make sequels to that movie though.
Sure. Okay.
I
Fine.
told you before we started, do not jinx it.
Yeah, anything could happen.
That's another
But,
6 years now.
Yeah, but we came up on like 300 episodes. It's like 1,000 hours of content, and I'm happy to be like, all right, that was a. Let's not beat this dead horse into the ground, nor let's not kill this horse by beating it and then just do weird sexual things to the dead horse. Let's just bury the dead horse and move on to other cool creative projects and just keep the best parts that we still have, which is the forum and the offshoots and the community that formed around it. Which brings us to the present. Next question.
So
I think you just filled all the questions in one go, man. We're done. Just
Good night, good night!
were you surprised by the forum's sort of reaction to the announcement? I mean, you got 6 pages of shock, basically.
Yeah, no, I was very surprised. Borderline, like, I was having a lot of trouble being able to even, and I pretty much couldn't. Yeah, man, it was too much. I tried to reply, like, initially I tried to reply to everyone who was saying nice things, and then I just haven't gone back and like addressed all the newer nice things that were said after that post, just because it's weird. I want to say thank you to everyone individually, but when you keep saying thank you over and over again to people saying these really wonderful things, it just sounds kind of trite. Like, it doesn't sound like you mean it anymore. And I do, but there's only so many words that are synonymous with thanks in this language.
it's like when you get a birthday announcement on Facebook. Like you get
right.
people saying happy birthday, and you just
God help me. Every time it's my birthday, I reply to every single one of them, even if I am just saying thanks 1,000 times. But I was not prepared for that sort of outpouring of love. What's weird is I'm not surprised by what kind of love it was. A lot of people were replying like, "This movie. It seems this podcast. It seems weird to say this out loud, especially to you, but it's a very like semi-crucial part of like my." Holy crap! Hold on, I'm getting an emergency.
Oh dear.
Yeah, emergency thingy on my phone. Amber Alert on my street.
I only found out what an Amber Alert was like.
I don't even know what that
days
is.
ago.
Check
They
that
get
out.
like
It's like
alerts
code
on
red.
my phone about stuff that's going on in the area. It's insane.
Yeah, sorry about that, you guys. No, people would talk about. People would say things like, it seems weird to say this, but it's been a very important thing for me in my life to have this show. It's gotten me through hard times or things like that, and Friends in Your Head is a really appropriate thing to call it. I know that sounds weird, and my response to that has always been, no, that does not sound weird at all. I know this whole thing was because I had that relationship with a previous podcast a million years ago, and I was a sad fat boy somewhere with friends in my head that I'd never met. Later I would like live with them, but that's just because Chris is freaky and I'm weirder. But I totally get that relationship and appreciate what it can do. And when people come out of the woodwork, like I'd never come in the forum, I just wanted to say that this, and everything I was just talking about. I'm not like repulsed or like, yeah, that's kind of weird, creepy, back off. I'm like, holy shit, we did it. We crossed the threshold and we were actually like, we were that for people. That is the thing that stirs me the most, and it freaked me out, and it made my milk come in, you guys.
I liked how
So gross.
you posted the whole good night thing as well. I got lots of people who had never even posted in the forums just coming in, just saying like, what? I love you guys.
Theodore Roosevelt's like, hey, I liked it. Bye. Yeah, I know, it's weird, man. And it's fun. And the forum has always been I wouldn't say vocal, but just a very, 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 very small part of the audience, but the only part of the audience we ever get to talk to. Like when I'm saying, at the end of the show, I'd always say join the forum, and I'm saying that because it's like I want to talk. Otherwise, we're just like speaking into the abyss, and somewhere someone is hearing it and it matters to them, but we never find out that it does until we end the show. It was Martin's joke, and it's a funny joke, where he's like, if you're just doing this to fleece people into starting to pay for the podcast, I think it's going to work.
Yeah, for the record, it totally would.
But no, man, the outpouring of love was moving and great, and it was awesome. It's a weird little dumb podcast, but it was really great to hear how much it meant to some people, and it means that much to me because it's my life.
You say a weird little podcast, and you also say in every episode, join the forum. It's a great group of people. I could probably paraphrase the entire thing, but how many downloads do you usually have per week, as opposed to the members on the board? Because you say the board is just a tiny bit of it.
It's hard to say. It varied a lot. I thought going into all of this that this would work the way like a DLR worked, which was the podcast that I used to love 9 years ago, Digital Llama Radio, which was that I didn't give a crap about. Yeah, exactly. I didn't give a crap about whatever thing they were talking about that week. You know, some fan film from 2000. Even if I hadn't seen it, I don't care. I'm going to download that and just listen to them talk because they're funny when they talk about it. I thought the same thing would happen with the show, where it's like, well, I haven't seen Twilight. I don't care. But those guys are fun. I'm going to listen to the Twilight commentary. But that's really
basically how it goes.
Yeah, that's how it was for like people in the basically the forum people are the ones who will do that. Well, they'll just put on like I don't care. I've never seen that movie, but whatever. I'll listen to that. That's sort of what and I thought that's how everyone was going to be because that's how I am. That's how you guys, I guess, are with it. It's like, oh, I don't care, whatever. I'll just listen to it. But no, man, like Avatar got like 20,000 downloads. And then, you know, some other movie where it's like, it's not a tiny Pulp Fiction or something, got way like 400. And it would be like that, where there was very few people that were like loyal to just the weekly release of the show. They just listened to the ones.
That's why so many people were like, "What's Stokes and Tokes?"
Right, exactly. a lot of people have heard of us at some point. Of course, changing your name halfway through isn't a really smart idea for SEO, but whatever. Had heard of us at some point. We'd had a very wide impact on a lot of people singularly throughout time. But we didn't have anywhere near like a substantial following every week that we could, for instance, say, hey, sponsor, we have X number of people every week. We can guarantee you that. Will you pay us to say your name? Well, that only works if you're getting the same, 900,000 listeners a week or whatever, one of the bigger shows. WTF probably gets on the order of like 1 million downloads a week, maybe 2 or 3 million every week. Even though, like, I don't know who this week's person is, there's still a whole bunch of people doing it every week, and that he can take to a sponsor and be like, yeah, dog, I got 1 million people a week. Do you want to pay me for them? Sometimes it's more. And they go, yeah. But for us, it's like, yeah, dog, we can guarantee sometimes like 200, but sometimes it's a lot more. No, come back. This week, people are.
We would love 200.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and that all being said, it was never quite clear. Like, at no point during the history of the podcast, up to and including this second, has it ever been clear specifically how many downloads we were getting. We're always inferring this because, for a reason that I've never understood, but Holden assures me is a legitimate one, the number of downloads our files are getting is subject to debate. And there's a
remember some sort of controversy about that. You thought it was in like the thousands, and
yeah, dude. iTunes, one of the huge problems early on, like, we know how many people subscribed to the RSS feed. There's like 500 people who were subscribed to Friends in Your Head and 500 people that were subscribed to just the commentaries. And we assume that there was no overlap between those two things, because if you're subscribed to Friends in Your Head, then you're also getting the commentaries. So it's like, all right, that's like probably 1,000 people are subscribed. Who knows if they're actually downloading them? But we have that number, and at least that's something. But we could never find out how many times like a file was getting downloaded from like our server or GoDaddy or something. And early on, iTunes was just psychotic about the numbers they'd report back to you, where they would like stream, like dash streaming. If you click play in the iTunes store, you can actually listen through the entire episode. It's the same way on a phone. You can stream just from the iTunes store on your phone, but your phone doesn't download Avatar, the MP3, the 200 megabyte MP3 all at once, and count that as a hit. Your phone downloads the first 10 seconds and plays that, and while that's going, it downloads the second 10 seconds, and that's now 2 hits, 3 hits, 4 hits. So someone listening to Avatar would be responsible for like 1,200 hits, and we'd be looking at these numbers like 20,000 or whatever, and it's like, hey, that's a lot. And then later we find out it's possible, maybe even likely, that that was just one guy in Schenectady. So I don't actually know how many people listen to the show. I'll tell you, I was surprised by the outpouring of people coming out of the woodwork who, like, on Twitter and stuff, where it's like, I didn't even know you listened to our show. Shit. Wow. Because we never really had a clear sense of that going through it. I know that, as you know, the people in the forum have all heard the show, and there's 250, 300 people in the forum. But it seemed, when I was getting numbers that seemed verifiable, which I later found out weren't, it seemed like the forum was about 100th of the size of the audience. But then again, I don't think we have 30,000 regular listeners, so I don't know what the hell. one of the reasons that this was all like such a drag at the
So
end is
when
like
did you
we don't have any idea how big we are. Like there's no interaction between us and like the possible future. There's no numbers to be had here, which was frustrating. And I'm sure there's solutions to that problem. It's not like Serial doesn't know how many people download episodes. Holden and I are professionals, but not at this. Well, he's a professional at this. He has no excuse. Don't hire Holden Hill. HoldenHill.com.
We could. We hear is available now.
Yeah, he is available. If he likes you, he might talk to you. HoldenHill@gmail.com. Ask him questions like, I don't know, ask him weird questions. Ask him questions that are inappropriate to ask strangers.
Getting on it right now.
It's pretty much what I do.
Sorry that I'm talking so much. I'll shut up now.
It was actually what we brought you on for, don't worry.
Yeah.
Hey, nice shirt. I just noticed your shirt. Very nice. Is that one of the old Down in Front shirts, or is that a redacted one? And I see Owen's, too.
We both rushed out and bought them when you made the announcement. And the next thing you said was, oh yeah, we never actually got much for the shirts.
Yeah, no. That was another part of the like, it's hard to say how many people were listening, but for one thing, I don't know. And for another, it's like, I don't think it's much, but for another, maybe it's more than I thought. But another thing about that is with the shirts, like, if Cafe Press charges $3,000 for a black t-shirt, which they do, like a white t-shirt on Cafe Press is like $8, but a black one is like 20, just sight unseen, just right off the bat it's 20. I guess they have to print it differently, which I guess makes sense, but whatever. They're so expensive that Cafe Press would allow me as the seller to mark it up and make a profit. So, they say, all right, it's $20 for the shirt. You can sell it for 25 and we'll give you the $5, is sort of how it works. But $5 is only worth $5 to me. And if we're not selling many shirts, it's not like getting that $15 is really like worth asking 3 different people to pay that much money for shirts. But it's like, dude, I'm never going to be making, like, it's not like I'm going to be living off of these shirt sales. Why am I punishing people for wanting a shirt? Let's just make it whatever exorbitant friggin' price Cafe Press sells it for and just say, whatever. We lose $15 a year for the possibility of selling one more shirt a year because it's not heinously expensive.
Oh, I donated on PayPal as well. Wait.
Yes, the PayPal was nice. Every now and then we get something from the PayPal, and I always appreciated that. But not much. I mean, like on the order of like $150 a year during a really good year, and that mostly went right back into like cables and mic stands and things like that.
Yeah, we have got, I think, like 1 donation.
We have a PayPal?
I think the donation was from Tom.
Yeah.
Just testing it. 99 cents.
I'm the guy who pays for all the stuff, like the
I know you're paying.
Web server, all of that shebang.
I know you're paying.
He's not resentful at all.
No, I paid for the server. That's where the rest of the money went. I mean, it wasn't enough to actually pay for the server. Most of it's just, some people buy jet skis. I bought a website. But, yeah. We never turned a profit. I mean, I don't know how much money we made, but I know it was less than we spent on it. Which, whatever.
But you also thinking around like huger projects like the Malaria-thon, and you had a live show, I believe, the 2nd anniversary thing.
Yeah.
You had an actual live audience.
The 100th episode. Yeah, we did the Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah.
We did that at the place that's now called Nerd Melt, where all the shows that like Nerdist does.
Sounds very sinister.
No, actually, it's Meltdown Comics in Hollywood, and Chris Hardwick bought out, or whatever, leased out some part of the back of that building and turned it into a podcast theater, sort of like Kevin Smith did with this podcast theater elsewhere. But Hardwick bought out the back of Meltdown Comics, which is this wonderful big comic store in Hollywood, right before that happened. And by the way, that's where like the Jonah Ray and Kumail podcast and a bunch of other, the Writers' Room, Harmontown, like a lot of those like podcasts that you've heard of are all recorded there. That's where we were. We were there before it was Nerd Melt, because we are that cool, you guys. In fact, if I recall correctly, like at the time, we went there to do that. Hardwick was like in the process of like, I think I'm going to do this, and I think we were one of the last things to happen there that wasn't immediately like the official. This is where Nerdist records their big Nerdist stuff. But no, we had a live show in the 100th episode, and like nobody came. Like 20 people came. A few people traveled from kind of far. Like I remember that Lalide came from like Sacramento, which was it's 4 or 5 hour drives. But a few people came from a couple hours away. But I was expecting more people, and no, not really. And later We did the Malaria-thon, which was great, and probably I think 4,000 or 5,000 different people checked it out at some point throughout the day. But that's okay. I'm happy for it, and we raised a lot of money. We raised like $3,000, something like $3,000 from malaria nets. I think we bought like 1,000 malaria nets, and that's great, and it was fun and dopey and stupid, and it was awesome. But it's the putting it out there and getting feedback from the world and getting a sense from the world via your own reflection what you look like to the rest of the world. It was never very clear over the process of making these shows. It was always just like, all right, we're gonna put this out there and whatever, just not stop, I guess. But the sort of feedback part of it was never very clear to me. So.
When did you start to notice that the forum was pretty active and there actually was a bit of a community starting?
Right around the time that Fan Films Forum closed down, I guess.
Well, it never closed down. It was just
it
sort of stagnated.
It just stopped existing.
Or we just took all its life force. I don't recall. Like, a long time ago.
Did, though.
Because I remember we've had, and you guys might know this better than I do just because I have a really, really crappy memory, but I think we've had 3 forum systems. Of old school downinfront.net was a WordPress blog that we'd embed little playable links on. And WordPress had like a weird applet plugin thingy you could jam a forum system into your WordPress, which made no sense. It sucked. And we did that for like 4 months, and then switched over to some forum system. And that was when it started to get big. And I want to say at some point we switched, like in the last 4 years or so, we switched to what the current forum system is, and that was a shakeup. Like that was like, oh, we're gonna lose the post. No, we're not gonna use the. But I remember that whenever that last switch happened, there was enough of a forum that I cared that we might lose the posts. So I guess 4 years ago, so 2 years in, because at first it's just people that you already know their names from other message boards and stuff, telling you on Twitter that they liked that episode, and then once the forum became a thing of its own. That almost became like a separate item of interest for me with the entire project, where it's like I like the forum a lot, and I often forget that it's connected to the podcasts at all. Like I feel like I'm just pimping my project on the forum. I don't feel like it's the forum for that project. But yeah, and it's a great community, man. It grew. People kept adding on to it, and good people, and also you.
But
It's a solid joke, guys. That's a classic construction. Wait a minute. Oh, and you can learn. I'm telling you, man.
I'll learn very well.
Steven Spielberg.
That shit is happening now. It has to.
Mark
I might
Zuckerberg.
just think that's my stage name.
Yeah.
No. Okay. I'm just gonna kill myself then.
Well, I don't know. I mean, you guys are all people who liked that show. I mean, you tell me about the show. I know all these things already.
I think the main reason we're here, well, we all know the main reason we're here is because of you guys.
Yeah.
Yes, but Owen was the guy who actually asked in the forum because, you never wanted us on there. It's, well, not that we ever asked or anything, but...
I did. I asked.
Well, I did too, but that was when I was coming to the U.S., but then I didn't come and, fuck it. But, it's pretty cool to have such an active community that the community itself starts its own podcast and includes other members of the forum.
The community
I think
becomes self-aware.
As well as us, I know there are some other podcasts as well. I think Doc Sub's got I forgot what the show's called, Cora podcast, which I think he started because of Friends in Your Head.
Well, you also have Sofa Dogs, but I believe that's older.
Yeah, Sofa Dogs was there before us, I think.
Yeah, same with Zarban.
Yeah.
That weirdo.
That's on air now.
Yeah.
It's true.
Zarban was like one thing that was absolutely not foreseen. Zarban.com is this website that's a repository of all the commentary podcasts online, run by our friend who also goes by the name Zarban. That there was a repository website for commentary podcasts was as much a surprise for us as apparently we were for him when he's like, what the hell? And added, it's like, there's a whole other show here. These guys, I didn't know who they were. And, that's how disconnected from the fact that there was other podcasts that existed we were. But finding out that there's a website devoted to nothing but commentary podcasts was so weird. It's like, really? There's First of all, there's other commentary podcasts. But it was super cool, and it turns out, like, over the course of that, Zarban, now the guy, not the website, Zarban's dedication to the community of people who do these commentary shows has been really significant. And he's always been a really big supporter of us in particular. And, like, during the Malaria-thon, he flew out, he donated money to help us, like, get set up and get the equipment we needed for that particular show. He flew out to participate and help out on the commentaries. He's been, like, an active member of the community in general, but also just, like, this dude has been, like, a force for good in the whole internet-wide commentary podcast world and all the different shows that are a part of it. And, like I said, it was not the way we expected, but it's great. Yeah, well, there's that too. You're in his house now.
It's a weird guy, because until the road trip, I had no idea who Zarban was. I just, just a name and a weird hat looking thing, but not a weird hat, because it's not a weird hat.
Turns out he's actually just a normal guy with expertise in various fields. But on the internet,
I actually thought that image was Zarban for a while.
Just a picture of him. No, like, his avatar is this weird, like, swami, like, turban, like, Nostradamus-looking guy.
Yeah.
But then, like, when you actually meet him, it's just like, oh no, he's just a dude. He's fine.
He's got an evil twin.
Zoltar at all, or whatever.
Zoltar? Okay, yeah.
I remember on the forum there was some indie film where it was getting quite a bit of praise, and they were asking for a show to be done on it, and Dorkman just came along and was like, "What, you've all got podcasts? Why don't you just do a show on it?"
Yeah, man. That's another reason we got out of the game. It's diversified too much. Everyone's got a... No, not really.
It's really hard to compete in the podcast community now, because, nobody likes each other. Everyone wants their own views. I'm kidding, by the way.
No, you're not.
I sensed the venom. Every ounce of it.
Just to be clear for posterity, previously when I said Zarban was weird, that was a joke about Zarban made with the confidence that at one point he will be listening to this. Hello, Zarban. Princess Poopy Pants. He's not actually weird. I mean, he's weird, but he's not, he's not weird in a bad way. He's just weird. He's kind of in a bad way. You know what?
He's weird in the way we're all weird.
I retract my disclaimer. He's weird. Princess Poopy Pants.
So the whole 6 years of podcasting, what commentaries stand out as your favorites?
This is weird. This interview is weird.
Because there's no segues. We just have
my favorites.
You're in our house now.
I always sort of theorized, and this will be different for everyone on the show, but for me, I always theorized that there were a few different sort of types of commentaries, because sometimes, like, Trey would have background behind the scenes, I was there, sort of stories about a movie. Or sometimes it would be like, we have ideas about how we could make improvements to this on a story structure level, fix it kind of episodes. And then there were some that were just, like, funny, we were tearing into it because we hate it so much but don't care. Or whatever. So there's, like, different sort of styles of commentaries, and the ones that I always liked are the ones that combine aspects of all three of them. I always liked the Twilight commentary because I think it's funny, I think it's constructive, I think it's interestingly destructive, and it's sort of a blend of all those things. I always liked the Trey episodes just in general because you can't do better than Trey stories. So, like, Batman Returns probably is my favorite for the Trey episodes. Maybe Abyss.
I'm thinking of the Penguins now. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. The Abyss is a great episode in terms of stories, but it gets negative points for me just personally as a do I want to listen to that one, just because it's so old, it's so early that we were doing things wrong and it's kind of blown out and things like that. And I wish for a lot of them, I wish that we had done movies that no one gave a crap about at the very beginning, and figured out how to do podcasts before we sat down and do commentaries for these movies where it's like, cool, we only get one shot at this. Like, our first episode was The Phantom Menace, which people go out and search out and listen to that one a lot, and some people seem to like it an awful lot. But for me, it's the most cringy of all the episodes we recorded because it's like, it's the first one. It's like a test.
Listen to our first episode, dude.
Our first one wasn't released.
Exactly. But, like, we can't... It would be weird to go back and just, like, do a commentary for Star Wars again. That's an inside joke. But it would be weird to go back and, like, do it again. So it's like, oh, we blew our wad on that really cool movie way before we were really good at this. And people still seem to like it, so this is all just in my head. This is antipathy in my head. But
well, we just did that with Mario.
Yeah.
We had a Mario episode last year, and we figured out we were talking about everything but Mario, so we released 2 Mega episodes now.
But my favorite episodes,
Mega
I guess,
Mario.
like the ones that stick out to me are like Twilight. I like Batman Returns a lot. I like Star Wars 1977, and also when we did it again as Star Wars Again. I like both of those episodes. There's a lot of really good ones. Like there's probably 30 or 40 that I'm very proud of. Pirates of the Caribbean I think is fun. UHF I think is fun. The ones that it'd be easier to go back and be like the ones where I'm like, I'm actually wary of that, and I'm only wary about that for personal reasons. Like other people might enjoy them as much as any other episode or even more. The stuff that I'm about is all things in my head where it's like, oh, I try not to do that, and I did that on the show that time, and it's things where it's like, damn it, I wish I hadn't said that because that turns out to be like slightly inaccurate, and I'm worried that everyone can tell. And shit like it's not like that's a bad episode. It's like, oh, I have to avoid that because it's like a bad memory, or I got drunk at a party and said the wrong thing. It's like I can't go back and listen to that episode because I don't want to hear me make that mistake again.
Which episode did Dorkman fall asleep in? Was that
I passed out on Armageddon. That's for instance, that kind
Has
of
it
thing.
happened multiple times, or I don't know?
I don't think it
They
happened.
drank a lot at some point.
I don't think it ever happened to Mike on air. Although at one point, I think after Attack of the Clones, we had done some episode that day. Then we did Attack of the Clones, and by the end of it, Mike was so drunk that he passed out on the couch in my garage, and that was like at 5 p.m. and like left my garage for work the next morning. Like passed out good. But like Armageddon is a good example of one where it's like that might actually be a totally fun episode to listen to, just in terms of like the comedy and them making fun of me for being so drunk and all that. But I avoid that episode because I'm so mortified at how drunk I was. Princess Bride is another one like that. I feel like, and the stuff that I just have like a lasting opinion of is a more clear list to me than the ones that I like a lot. I like all of them. And there are some that I really like a lot, and there are just a few that I like less than most.
Was there anything that you didn't think would work but really surprised you?
Well, there's not much that we ended up doing that I didn't think would work. Like stuff that people had ideas for, but I'm like, I don't think that'll work. I just fucking pulled rank. And I was like, no, I'm not doing that. Let me see. Is there anything? Lord of the Rings. Actually, the Malariathon also. In both cases, those aren't franchises that I particularly have a history with. Dorkman does, and he carried the torch in both cases. But because I have 20 minutes total to say about Harry Potter and 5 minutes total to say about Lord of the Rings. So I'm like,
you covered that
the prospect,
well.
right? Exactly. The prospect of doing
stat it
like
out over 24 hours. I mean,
right, this 24-hour like marathon. Like I'm in my head before this has happened, going, I know I cannot fill 1 hour less 24. This might not work because I don't know how well everyone else can vamp about Harry Potter. It turns out, this speaks to the panel that like Mike. It's not even that Mike picked up slack. It's that Mike carried the rope. Mike was the rock on both of those, actually, although a lot of people know a lot about Lord of the Rings. He was like, 24 hours is a long time. And Mike was on Mike the entire time. He never took a break. I think he peed a couple times, but like he didn't take a nap or something. I took a nap. Well, I didn't take a nap because I was running the board. I passed out at Lord of the Rings. See, I stopped drinking recently, but I'm going back like, man, I was drunk a lot on this show. Good times.
In the chat, Hanson
I've only
says
done that once.
favourite commentary should be Dark City, just to infuriate everyone.
I haven't gone back and listened to that one, to be honest with you, because it's one of those where it's like, I don't want to listen to me be an idiot. Like, you know how you are worried every time you get home from a party that I think I sounded like an idiot when I was talking to them. I'm pretty. I really hope next time I see them, there's like an excuse for us to be in the same room together that we can focus on that excuse and not go back and be like, by the way, when I last saw you, you were weird. That's what having a podcast is when you drink on podcasts. It's just like, I was drunk on that one. I better steer clear because I don't know what I said, and I'm worried. It's just like going back and listening to Dark City is just me being an idiot forever. I don't want to hear it in like crystal clear stereo audio. It's just like, oh man, other people can hear this too. This is I'll tell you what. What's harder than anything else is having the ability to delete these episodes from the face of the internet and not doing it. Out of some weird duty to you people that I don't know why I have it. Where it's like I can't go back through and like rewrite history with the deleting of things that I don't like. I have to leave them. The fact that George started tweaking Star Wars, like I'm surprised he didn't just like remove them from history if he had the ability to do that.
Martin and I got drunk at some point like a year ago, and then decided to record a podcast. I have no idea what the topic was because I haven't actually
It
listened
didn't
to
have a topic. The topic was just, hi, we're drunk. And it
right.
appeared, when was it, New Year's or something? And I
We
was just like,
recorded it.
oh, there's a podcast. I don't remember
recorded
doing this one.
I'm
not
during
in it.
Christmas, and we released it April 1st.
Oh, yeah.
And it took you like a good 3 minutes to realize we were actually drunk.
It did. I thought you were just like fooling around or something. Wait, hang on. And then I was just like, why wasn't I invited?
Well, there was vodka and other stuff. As in orange juice, just screwdrivers. It's not good. I don't recommend doing that, like, ever, and I won't again.
Screwdrivers are
You
delightful.
will.
Yeah, they're delightful that day. It's just the morning after that's the problem.
Sure, yeah.
How long did you guys go without missing a week's release? Because it was a good run.
If I'm not mistaken, we only missed 4. In 6 years, there were only 4 weekends where something didn't come out.
Because
The first
you built
one
a
was Joker.
backlog?
Huh?
Because you built a backlog.
In theory, we did.
Hmm.
That was always the idea, but in the last 2 or 3 years, it's been more of a month-to-month sort of paycheck to paycheck sort of thing. Like we would frequently need to get together and record something because we didn't have anything to release. I think the first
We don't do that.
I think the first episode. I remember that. I think Ghostbusters 2. I say after this we're taking a 1-week hiatus, and that's because I was going on vacation and we didn't have a backlog. So whenever Ghostbusters 2 was, maybe 30th or 40th episode, something like that. And we missed a couple other ones. We had the weird trademark thingy, and we went off for a week there. And then maybe more recently we had 1 or 2, but not many. We committed to it because I found with things like this, I don't know like what experience you guys have had with picking a release schedule, but I've found that if you don't really hold yourself to a schedule, you immediately like fall away from it forever. Like if you'll allow yourself the ability to I'm gonna decide whether or not I'm gonna skip this week, I'll always pick to skip it. Like I'll always every single time for a new reason pick to skip it, and it never gets done. So doing like the weekly thing was sort of important for me, just in terms of keeping up just a rhythm and a stamina for it. So we didn't miss many. We pretty much as many weeks as we went, we have that many episodes.
We actually recorded a 2-minute conversation of what our favourite crisps were, and I put the titles on it and was like, right, if you guys can't record, this is what's going out. And it was quite a good motivator until we ended up having to put it out.
Because I wanted to
Yeah,
put
man,
it
that's
out. It
not
was a
how-
brilliant episode.
If you threatened Mike with that, if you threatened Trey with that, he'd be like, "Fuck you, release it. I don't care. The world should know." Not really.
Oh, they should. That was a very important episode. So you mentioned the trademark thing before, just for anyone who doesn't know what the hell that was. Could you
Right.
sort of explain that and how
Yeah,
much
I
of a pain in the ass was it?
Yeah, I think Mark Twain said, "An honest man never has to remember what he said," which I'm repurposing now to mean someone who just tells everything about a situation doesn't have to remember what he left out. But I'm forced with this it's a legal matter where I can't remember what I'm not supposed to say. But in
It's fine, no
April,
one listens to this anyway.
like March of 2013, we started getting messages over the course of a couple of hours one morning. I started getting messages from like iTunes and YouTube saying DMCA takedown. Someone has claimed this is their intellectual property, and I recall like my first thought was, the intro music is music that I made. We're not doing anything from the movies that's like we're not including the soundtrack, and even if we were, it's still commentary, so that should still count. Is it that we have the posters of the movies, and that's like going into the metadata, and they're mad about the fact that the posters aren't mine? It's like that seems extreme, but I can understand. But no, turns out there was someone had previously owned the trademark on the name of the podcast that we were using, and had trademarked it for use in podcast in media context. And said, "This is my trademark. I didn't notice you guys until now, 4 years into this, but you can't use that. That's mine." And we went through that process with him, trying to figure out, like, all right, well, under what set of circumstances can we continue to use this? And it didn't seem like he was very interested in moving forward from that. He wanted to keep it for himself, and that was a process that could have ended any number of ways. We could have tried to do some sort of a legal appeal process, which we were looking into. In fact, Mike's dad is a copyright attorney. Or we could just change the name of the show. And there was a lot of reasons to do either or, all of them. But we basically found ourselves at the position where iTunes and YouTube were not going to let us just say, come on, can we please just have it back? Screw that guy. Like, they are waiting for the trademark holder. Whether or not he's legitimately a trademark holder would have been an issue for the courts. But until either he says they can have that, or the courts say illegitimate claim of trademark on his part, it's really, they can use it. No one is going to tell iTunes and YouTube that they can release our stuff again. So we just had to either wait until that process had finished to use iTunes and YouTube, or we could just change the name of the show. And that process, we talked to a few attorneys, and it was on the order of 9 months to a year. It would have been waiting for either the result to be we have to pay this guy to use it or whatever, or just change the name of the show, more likely. Or we've been awarded the custody of that trademark. Either way, it's a year to wait. And I was like, who cares? Let's just change the name of the show. And at that point, we changed it to What Are You Doing Movie? And I've learned some things. I have strong opinions about how podcasts should be named, if anyone gives a crap. But one of the opinions that I didn't have when we named the show, that I have now, is probably avoid punctuation in the name of your podcast title. Especially 2 punctuation marks. But I like the title What Are You Doing Movie a lot. I think it's more descriptive than Down in Front was, even though I think Down in Front is probably a better title in general. It's trademarked, so we couldn't use it anymore. And at the time, we had to go through the process of removing all the instances of that old name from the entire website, and the Twitter, and the YouTube, and the audio content of every previously uploaded episode, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
So if I go back now and download The Phantom Menace, it says Friends in Your Head, or What Are You Doing Movie?
If you go back and download The Phantom Menace, right now it says, the guy whose trademark it was said it was okay if we prefaced every old episode with the fact that this is an archive thing.
Okay.
So if you go back and listen to those old episodes, it says the What Are You Doing Movie archives. And then it says, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Down in Front. But there's a stinger at the beginning that indicates that you're listening to something from back in the day. And then at the end of it, the same voice says friendsinyourhead.com, because for those old episodes I said downinfront.net.
Speaking of which, who is the girl saying friendsinyourhead.com?
That's a girl named Ren Whitting, who is a makeup artist in LA and Hollywood, who's awesome. WRENWITTING.com, I think, is her website, and she's badass, and you should hire her. And we were dating at the time, are no longer, but she's rad, and she has a really cool voice. She just carries she supports her voice in a way that's really well suited to radio. And I was like, can you please, I need this stinger, and I don't think my voice is really suited for it. And if I just go all weird radio station morning DJ on the file, I think I can make a cool little stinger out of it. And she laid it down. We spent 20 minutes getting the emphasis right, because that's the formal pronunciation of the title. And I wanted everyone to get the right emphasis. What are you doing, movie? What are you doing, movie? What are you doing, movie? It's what are you doing, movie? You have to say kind of pissed. So we spent a while getting the exact right, what are you doing, movie.com or whatever. But yeah, I've always loved it because I think it sounds great and slicker than the rest of the show. It sounds like
I genuinely thought you'd hired someone when I first heard it. Cause,
right?
It sounds so professional.
Well, the audio mixing is all just.
Person.
I just fiddle around with audio stuff all the time in my spare time, and I just listen to a bunch of those stingers from radio stations and copied what they do in terms of editing. But her voice, I agree with you. I as soon as I had heard her talk, I was like, that's a really good radio voice, and it totally worked out. So I'm still appreciative to that, because for people who back listen to old episodes, that's the first thing they hear, and it makes us sound better. But yeah, man, if you need makeup for whatever you're shooting in LA, I don't think she ever goes to New York or wherever. Maybe Chicago. But Ren Whitting.
We don't either, so it's fine.
I've heard.
when you were dealing with iTunes and YouTube, was it were you talking to humans, or was it just a case of automated notices? Because that would be a nightmare.
We spent. I didn't find out that it wasn't like the posters thing or some other reason like that for days, because iTunes wouldn't tell us what the complaint was. YouTube wouldn't tell us what the complaint was. It wasn't until like Twitter or something, where we were using Down in Front, said, "Here's why," that I realized, holy crap, this is not about like posters or anything at all. This is like a trademark claim. Wasn't expecting that at all. So like, no, it was all just the system. I was just talking to the system. Hello, are you there? Yeah,
Someone cue the voice of GLaDOS.
It wasn't until like I had it took like I think on the order of a week or 10 days to finally get someone in person from iTunes to tell me, yeah, we're not gonna. We take the rights of the complainer as the precedent, rather than the rights of the accused, which honestly I think makes sense. I think that's fair. But you know, the precious downside of that is if we live in a world wherein they would have legally found that it was accurate and legitimate and he had that trademark, which we may well have lived in that world, we just never went to trial, so we don't know, then the system worked exactly the way it's supposed to. So that's all fine. That's just the way the world works these days, and I like too much about the way the world works these days to go back to anything else. So I'm happy with it. It was a bummer, but you know, it's a bummer that happens. So you know, if you're starting a podcast or whatever, for real, guys, no shit, check your trademarks. Trademarkia.com, TRADEMARKIA.com is a great place to check that.
Working on it.
Check that, and also register for trademarks. I now am the formal trademark owner of Friends in Your Head, which, if we continue to use the website and I think produce content every less than 3 years, that will continue to be an active trademark. Because a trademark, intellectual property, and I don't know anything about this. No one on the internet does, by the way. Everyone who thinks they know is an idiot. All right? No, don't listen to anyone's opinion about intellectual property. Just talk to a lawyer. But intellectual property is something more like it's granted to the creator and it extends for some period of time, on the order of decades. But trademarks are something more like if you don't use it or defend it, you lose it. And I think, and this is totally layman and misremembered, like this is an idiot telling you something he's probably remembering poorly, but in America there was a drink called Nestle Quick, which was just, you know, hot chocolate, like powdered stuff. You mix it with water or milk. And I guess they didn't defend their trademark against someone else using it for something for so long that they eventually, when it went to a court to say, guys, can you please make these other people stop using our trademark, the court said, no, because you haven't been demonstrating that it is your trademark for so long that because you haven't defended it, there was no reason for them to think they couldn't do what they were doing. It's theirs now, and now it's called Nesquik. Like Nestle makes Nesquik, and Nestle Quick is some other thing. I mean, that's sort of.
Do you know about the TARDIS?
Say what?
Oh yeah.
Do you know about the TARDIS?
No.
So
I know what the TARDIS is, but I don't know what you're referring to.
The police used their own phone boxes for decades, and the BBC made Doctor Who. They had one as a prop. They made it a spaceship. In the late 80s, early 90s, the BBC won a court case that said that police boxes were more familiar with Doctor Who than the Metropolitan Police.
That is amazing.
That is so cool.
I wonder if like Bob Gale can make that for DeLoreans and shit.
Every time you buy a DeLorean now, you have to buy it pimped out. With Mr. Fusion.
For the longest time, I didn't think you could paint
DeLorean wants to do that too.
I didn't think you could paint those because they are stainless steel, and you know, painting isn't dyeing; it's painting. Dyeing, I guess, would be staining, but I just didn't think you could paint them. But I see there's a hot pink, like too hot pink DeLorean that drives like a skate or like a helmet, like bright pink, like highlighter pink DeLorean in my neighborhood. That is just. Like, you think a normal DeLorean's ugly. Good
Holy
God.
shit.
Like bright pink,
pictures.
like blacklight pink.
Wow. I found pictures. He's right.
Of the pink DeLorean?
Holy shit. Yeah.
It didn't even occur to me to search. Is it infamous? It's in my, I just see it driving. Yep, that's it.
So if a movie comes out in a few years called The Amazing Friends in Your Head 2, you'll know why.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, that's why. Because extended edition, it turns out. Did you look at? Yeah, let's not talk about it out loud because maybe you never know. But the thing is,
for now,
if you have been using it for a certain amount of time and never been told to stop, like a cease and desist, if you ever got a cease and desist, whatever. But if you had been using it for, say, 20 years, that's way longer than the actual number, but say 20 years, the people who owned Extended Edition in the first place never defended it, you would, I believe, at least have an argument towards the claim that that is your trademark now.
That's our goal now.
Yeah, so we keep doing this for 20 years, and then anytime someone brings out like an extended decision Blu-ray...
Worst case scenario, you can rename this podcast Nestle Quick.
Or just beg to the Nesquik lords that they don't defend their Nesquik brand.
Oh,
back in the day when that was all going down, we were talking to just the great cogs and cycles of the iTunes back end, for the most part. And it wasn't until I think maybe it was even Twitter. Someone told me the stuff that I know about it because they didn't, and the rest of it had to do with like really hardcore execution of Google Foo to figure out what the hell is going on.
So how'd you guys wind up being the core group? Like Trey, Brian, Dorkman, and you, and then Eddie and Matt and Jake Lloyd, but not that Jake Lloyd. And all those guys.
How did we settle on that sort of core four?
Yeah. Because we did, just because we're the only ones who had time.
Yeah, we have similar sort of time zones.
Well, Brian and I were living together. We were roommates. Brian and I, well, first of all, Handel and I were doing Geeksa for a year or so, maybe a little bit more than that, in Florida. And Brian lived in Florida at the same time, and we knew him from online a little bit because we all met on TFN back in the day because truly everyone needs to be reminded. And when I moved to LA, Brian was there. He moved like a month after me or something, and he and I and a couple other people, Chad Peter, moved into an apartment together, and I decided to see if we could just do Geeksa West episodes that wouldn't have Handel in them, but like we just keep carrying on the torch that way. Over the course of doing Geeksa in Florida, I think both Dorkman and Trey had been on episodes variously at some moment or another. But once I moved to LA, we were going to do Geeksa episodes. We did for a while. Maybe we even did a commentary or two as Geeksa. But at that time, I had just moved from Florida, where I knew one online human from TFN, to California, where I knew a bunch. I knew Ryan and Dorkman and Trey and other people who lived here who were old TFN people. So I just did the same thing I did with Brian in the first place, where it's like, hi, internet person, nice to meet you. Let's all do a podcast together and be friends. And Brian was like a default that way. Trey, I just thought was awesome. I had lived with him for a month or two when I first moved to LA. I rented a room from him. And it's like, Trey, do you want to do this? And at the time, it's like I didn't know Trey or Mike well enough. It was like, you know how you'd feel awkward inviting someone who doesn't know about your podcast onto your podcast? Like, I know about, but like if you were like inviting someone where it's like, they're really cool and I don't feel like, they wouldn't want to do it with us, and I'm not even going to ask. I was like that with both Mike and Trey because I didn't know them personally that well at that point. Same with Ryan. It's just like they were guys that I'd known from the internet stuff, but not like we weren't buds. So Brian happened by default, and I just asked Mike and Trey because I thought Mike was hilarious and Trey was hilarious, and it's like, well, let's put people that I think are awesome on this. And they were like, all right, well, we'll come try it out, and we had a good time with it. And it, in terms of a social event, it's a lot of fun to get together and record all in one room together. You guys,
working on it.
Move into one big apartment and have stories. Like, go retrieve a stolen love letter and shit. It'll be fun.
That way we can make Blu-rays.
The extended edition boys protect their trademark this week on Extended. Yeah, we did a few of them, and it just became a thing where it's like, well, we're doing this thing. And then we kind of ended up in this little pattern at the beginning of it where we do this thing, and does anyone care? And, when you aren't an established podcast, or you haven't done this, you haven't decided it's a part of your life, doing a podcast is a psychotic, weird thing that you really shouldn't tell people about. You should be embarrassed. So at the beginning, where it's just the four of us doing it, we're like, let's not tell anybody. Like, we posted it on the forum, on the TFN Fan Films forum, like, the nerds are nice, but no one else is nice. We shouldn't tell anybody. And for a while, it was just like a thing we did. We didn't even tell our friends for a little bit. until it became like we had done a bunch of them, and it's like we're gonna keep doing these are fun. We started getting more like, hey, we got a Twitter, we got a Facebook, we got a this, we got a that, and get our friends on and stuff like that. We had guest people come on for one episode or another, and the unrealistic expectation that we could all do every episode that was set at the beginning sort of fell by the side of like, yeah, you know what, I'm busy this weekend, but you can bring in someone to fill in my spot. And towards the end of it, and like you said, various people came on board over the course of it. Matt Veda, who was initially just a forum person, he was a Geeksta person before that, and then he was a community person on the Friends in Your Head stuff. When he moved to LA, he ended up. A lot of people moved to LA and into that house from the forum. Bo Howe did, Jeffrey Harrell did, Matt Veda did. Let's see if there's. I feel Mickey Marsala did. Other people from the forum have moved to LA since. I don't know if they've moved into the house, but like a lot of people. I was like, yes, you can move into a room in my house. Let's all be friends, everybody. Friends, I want to be friends. And
You're like that weird forum guy that just kept inviting people. Just like, I want to know everyone. Just come on.
We had a big goddamn house. It was hard to find roommates. I was like, I had people who like were like, I'm moving to LA. I don't know what to do. I've been listening to you guys talk about how easy it is to do VFX. Because I'm lying in this email that I'm sending to you that Teague is making up now. There's 3 layers of parentheses in this. Oops. I don't know what to do. What should I do? And I'm like, well, we have a room. You can come crash here for a couple months. It's cheap rent, and it's tiny and gross, and I never wear clothes. But you're welcome to do that if you want. And people just kept saying yes. But as people, like Veda came on because he moved to LA, and it's like, oh, fucking God, this is hard. And he ended up living with us for a while. And just because, like, Matt Veda is a weird, weaponized, liquid force of helpful that just seeps into whatever cracks will facilitate him at the moment. And a lot of people from the forum are like that, by the way. The people that I've met from the forum, Paulu is the same way, where if you need help with something, he just comes over and, like, just finds a thing to help with and just starts doing it without, like, needing direction. He'll take direction. But, like, these are guys, like, I found that this is, like, a theme among all the people from the forum, is they're smart. They kind of figure out the system as whatever's happening is happening. They're like, I can see that this needs to happen. They make sure that it gets done. And Veda just started setting up mics on Sundays, like a cargo cult. Like, he'd just start setting them up, and it's like, yeah, we're going to record today. Thanks, man. And, like, figuring out solutions like, here, I figured out how to get the sound from the movie in all your headphones, too, without getting too many splitters. And he's just really awesome.
Was there ever, like, one time when he'd set up all the mics and then you were like, no, we're not recording today? And you just went, oh.
No. No, but at some point after he went back to Florida, he only lived out there. He lived out here for like a year or so before he had to go back because he couldn't get it to stick. A lot of people move to LA and they run out of the savings padding that they brought with them before they get their claws in enough, and they bounce off of it, and it's sad, but it's also fun. I mean, it's disappointing for them because it's like, wait, damn it, ah, shit, all right, I'm gonna try again, save up, or they're just like, nah, never mind, I'm just gonna do something else. But it's fun as a thing to do. Like, I've met a lot of people from the forum just because they came out here and lived in LA for a while, like literally on the order of 2 dozen. But Veda just came out and helped, and he went back to Florida. Once he moved back to Florida, I think he bought us a pizza once. Like, we were talking about how we were hungry, and he ordered a pizza and had it delivered to my door, which at the time, that was privileged information. Later, it would turn out to be pretty easy to find my address and send me a pizza, but that's a separate story. And, yeah, man, later, like, Jeffrey Harrell was another person who got involved in a lot of the episodes. Bo was there for a lot of the episodes. Mickey was there, the TV tropes person for a while. People would come out and just help. And over the course of them being around and filling up, like, space in the room, Seth Brower is another incredibly helpful person who's just been around. These people were like,
for the longest time for the Seth guy from Backyard VFX.
Yeah, no, a different guy.
Yeah, I found out.
Although, I think I know that guy too, but whatever. I think I met him. I don't know. It's weird, man. I have a bad memory, and the Valley is just like that sometimes.
Hi, I'm Tom.
Right. Hi, Tom.
So
Tomahawk, was it Tomahawk? But anyway, to answer the question from three epochs ago, basically, as people sort of proved their mettle as like talkers or helpful people that we liked having around, it became like obvious. Like, well, obviously, because Ryan is a great, funny, smart talker. Eddie is, these people are great talkers. Like, there's nothing special about the four of us. We just started it. And that's embarrassing. Like, we can fill it out with whoever we fucking want. So let's bring other people on. And built out a pretty solid roster of guest people. Like, I don't know how many, like maybe 15 or 20 episodes, like Ryan episodes, maybe 10 or 15 Jake Lloyd episodes, 3 or 4 Matt Vedas, maybe 5 or 6. Eddie was on probably 20 or 30. Paul's been on a bunch.
How'd you get Lowell Cunningham on?
Lowell was, let's see, our friend...
For the guy people that don't know, he was on the Men in Black commentary, and I believe he wrote Men in Black.
Yeah.
Yeah, Lowell Cunningham created Men in Black, and he was on our commentary for it. That was episode, 30, I think, something like that. Lowell is friends with our buddy John Hudgens, who's another TFN Fan Films guy. John Hudgens and Lowell are buddies from way back. I think they know each other. But they live, I think they both live in Tennessee and are, contemporary buddies, they hang out. And he was in town for something, and John was like, hey, Lowell's going to be in town, you guys should do Men in Black, and sort of arrange that. And I was like, I'm not going to say no, because hell yeah. So that's how that one came to be.
Yeah, because you also had Billy West and...
yeah. They had, Michael Nelson.
George Takei.
We had George Takei. Yeah, we had Billy West. Those were all... It's weird. On the podcast the more recent shows, the Friends in Your Head shows, the commentaries, after Lowell and maybe a couple others, we had Jeff Schubert, who was an extra, like a featured extra in Orgasmo, come on to talk about his experience with Orgasmo with his show, and we had a few other guests where it's hey, guests, but we made a conscious decision to let's not do that anymore at a certain point, because it really limits your ability to have a conversation about the movie. Because for one thing, you want to facilitate them and make them feel comfortable. For another thing, that includes not shitting on the movie if there's parts you want to shit on. Even if they feel that way themselves, they are going on the record and saying weird, shitty stuff about a thing they're involved with, and that's going to hurt someone's feelings, or they're not going to get hired again, so they don't want to, and they don't want to be associated with or seem like they're endorsing something where people were shitting on things. So it's the ability at some point at variously come through where it's we could get this person to be on that commentary, and they got big. They got to the point where it's we could actually... Someone we know knows them, or they want to do it, or they liked a couple episodes, so they would be interested in doing this. And ultimately, we went in the let's really not. One thing that I always thought would be fun, it just never ended up happening, kind of randomly, is that we could get celebrity person to come on and do a commentary for some other movie, and just why is it that guy on the commentary today? It's I don't know, because he likes his movie. Screw you.
That would actually be pretty fun.
Ultimately, that didn't really come together for pretty much the same reason, which is that they would be uncomfortable doing any sort of it's an industry town.
Yeah.
People work really hard on movies, even bad movies, and talented people do good work on bad movies. And when you shit on a bad movie just because the end product was crappy, which is fair if you're not playing the real game, which is fair, you're throwing a lot of people who did good work under the bus. We always talk about coffee and bagels movies, and that's sort of why we invoke that. The idea of coffee and bagels movies, for the one person listening to this who doesn't know, everyone knows. Everybody knows what a coffee and bagels. The idea is, it's a moment when you're watching a movie that's so bad that you're struck with the observation, the world, the universe unravels into its constituent molecules, and you go, holy shit, someone had to wake up and make coffee the day they filmed this scene. Rats 9 needed, the direct-to-DVD toy feature that only gets packaged with the doll. Someone had to wake up and make coffee for them to film this day. It refers to an old Patton Oswalt bit about deathbed. Those moments, what we're getting at with that is that people wake up and do good work on bad movies every day. Very, very rarely do people have the opportunity to do bad work in a movie that you see. The only people who often get past that are directors who weren't able to manage what the studio wanted versus what they wanted to do, or the studio too many cooks in the kitchen did, or something. But a director will lose control of the movie, and that wreaks havoc on the quality. But the costume designer brought it. The sound mixer came to play that day. So when you say this movie fucking sucks, no one who knows what they're doing and works in the industry wants to be involved in a conversation that flip, because it requires too many disclaimers. Where you're I know that this is 150 people doing great work, and 2 people who let it get past them a little bit that totally wrecks it for everyone. And it's hard to speak uncritically like that. So eventually it was let's not do the guests. Let's just keep it ourselves, and we'll only talk when we talk with formality about the quality of things. We'll talk about things that either we know what we're talking about, which is rarely, or we know that we don't know what the fuck we're talking about. There won't be things where it's I think I know what I'm talking about, and make weird flippant comment that's really offensive to people who know what they're doing. Nope, let's avoid that. I was there. I know how that happens. Or like I do that thing specifically for a living. Or screenwriting, which is a hobby for. It's Mike does screenwriting, but like we pick things where it's like it's clear that we are professionals, but not at this. How long is this going to go on, by the way? I feel like we're rattling people's ears off.
Well, I'm going to actually have to call it a night now because it's almost 1 a.m. But you guys can continue for however long you want to.
Thanks, you're not my real dad, Tom.
So we go on.
I mean, I have stuff I need to be doing, but I'm also like not really in a hurry, so I can hang out for another few minutes if you want, or we can be done.
We'll start to wrap this up. If you were to do it again, is there anything you'd do differently?
Yeah, a lot of stuff. First of all, no, I was kidding. I was gonna just start like naming people, like I'm not that guy. No, I would do a lot differently. We didn't set up. One of the things I would do differently at the outset is make sure you have the back end and the analytics set up such that you can have ironclad numbers and be aware what sort of traffic you're getting. Very specifically. Like we never set we tried repeatedly to get that set up and it never came together, and I was never totally clear on why, but Holden, who I trust, was saying our setup won't facilitate that and it's not really something that's within our grasp. GoDaddy previously had some analytics that we were able to use to limited success, but then GoDaddy revoked those analytics, and it's like now we can do like Google Analytics, but that doesn't really work with what we're doing. So I would set up a back end such that you know how many people are downloading your stuff, ideally how long they're listening to it, which this is all a long way of saying you should use like YouTube or SoundCloud or Bandcamp or something to do podcasts. They keep better track of your numbers than you're likely to get from iTunes, and we were ever able to get with just an FTP service. But in any case, I would have numbers. Because with numbers comes the ability to say we get 10,000 listeners a week, or 5, and that's how many we can guarantee you, company that wants to give us money. And they will see, you can lie to them, you can totally lie to them and say you get 300,000 listeners a week. But as soon as they start to see that they're not getting a commensurate increase in sales of their, fleece dildos or whatever they sell, probably fleece dildos though, they're going to be like, all right, well, you guys clearly lied to us. You're not giving us what we thought we were paying for. Goodbye.
Yes,
having numbers
selling fleece dildos, so
right.
It's a niche
so
market.
the first thing I would do is make sure that we have numbers like that. And the other thing is just build in. Because of that, we tried repeatedly different things to try to make money off of this or get sponsors or things like that. TV tropes. I worked out something with TV tropes for a while because for a long time, it wasn't. I mean, at no point was it clear what our audience was demographically, much less like how many people are downloading it. But it was never clear where the demographics for our show hid, because our show kind of was changey a lot. It was movies, but like everyone likes movies, so we've narrowed it down to the population of the Earth. All right, let's go. What can we do to get smaller? And I felt really clever, frankly, when it eventually occurred to me like TV tropes is probably pretty close to the kind of people who'd be interested in this. It's people who are dissecting weird meta-analysis of movies and how they work. And for a while, we were partnered with them, and it was great. And we would like spit out some TV tropes and pimp them, and they'd run banner ads for us. But ultimately, they weren't getting enough traffic from us for that to be equitable for them. And they're like, guys, we're sorry, we love you, but we got to go. And other things like that. All of that is contingent upon listenership and knowing your demographics and knowing where to put them. But also, it's not for lack of trying that we never made money. It's just that it's hard to make money off of a thing like this anyway, and we never made it easy for ourselves. So things that I would do to make it easier in the future would be base your analytics on something real. Have a gold standard for your analytics, and make sure that what you're doing has an audience that you can find. Not that it has an audience. Anything has an audience. Rule 34. Audience that you can find. Because if you can't find them, you can't tell them. And the kind of people who like our shows like all sorts of random crap, but like there's not one thing that all of them like that I could find them there and say, hey, everyone over here, you're going to like the show, come over here. We found people one by one over the course of 6 years because there's nowhere to, except for TV tropes. We got a few people from TV tropes. there's no one place to advertise that show. Commentaries, podcasts, 2-hour-long MP3s, like the stuff, the overlapping Venn diagram of what we were was not a thing that we could just walk up to the people who want that and say, here, we do it too. So find something that you can sell to someone and be able to provide numbers for it would be like the two baseline things that I would start with differently. And there's other stuff along the way as well, but those are the big ones.
And what are you going to do next now that you don't have a podcast to take up all your time?
Porn.
So that was the big announcement.
Yeah. Yeah, look, they're not big. No. I know that, let's see, Eddie's working on bringing documentality into a different form factor. We're going to see how that works out. But it'll probably be like a separate standalone spin-off thingy on whatever the same network that Extended Edition is on, I guess. And
we'll take him.
Yeah, Fred's in your head too. And also, I think he's got a movie that he's trying to get his documentary Fighting in Plain Sight off the ground, so he's going to do that. Trey's off being Trey and working on movies in various supervisory capacities. Brian, I think, is editing a lot, and I haven't announced what I'm doing next yet, but it's not totally clear to me.
Give us an exclusive.
Music will be involved. Music that you can buy will be involved. But it'll probably be more than that. I'm not just going to become a musician. I have a vague sense of a larger thing. But that will be predicated on the shit I was just saying. I'm applying to this new thing, where it's like, figure out before you start, you idiot, how you can keep track of how people are seeing it, and what different ways you can reach people who care, and in what ways you can make money off of it, and what you're comfortable making money off of it with. You know, if you're comfortable saying, guys, I'm sorry, this is the thing that I do for my, like, this is supposed to be a major supplement to my income. This ad for the fleece dildos is important. Sorry. I know it's weird that I'm trying to sell you stuff, but that's the reality of this. Or figure out some other way to get money. But you can't not play that game and ever expect it to make money. In the case of the podcasts, you also can't try to play that game when you have such a weird, disparate thing in the first place that you can't keep track of it anyway. But whatever, that's beside the point. But it'll be something that plays to the strengths that I think can be played to. But then again, like, man, the last time I made up a podcast, it was 2009. A lot has changed. I mean, our shows are a very, very 2009 kind of way to do things. The whole world's different these days, and like I don't know, man. I don't know about most.
Star Wars was 1977 and it's still cool.
No, I'm not saying it's not cool. I'm just saying, like, there are better ways to, like, the world went off and made better ways for other people to get podcasts without us, you know? And now it's like, well, we could be over there doing it that way, the way that people, like, the whole world decided, here's how podcasts. When we started, podcasts were weird and people didn't know what they were. Much less when DLR started, and they didn't, like, that wasn't a thing. When Geeksa started, like, we had like Geeksa was 2006, so that was like YouTube. You didn't know what YouTube was in 2006, probably. Like, that's what we're talking about. So it was that weird, and like it was that much of a frontier. 2009, still kind of like, you know, however you want to do it, man. It's different for everyone. Figure out the best way to do it for you. 2015, nah, man. The world knows how podcasts work now, and we weren't doing it the way that the world wants to receive them. So we weren't, you know, ripe for that really. And porting ourselves over to it was just not a thing that we ended up doing. I don't know how to do a 2015 podcast is the problem. But figuring out how to do a 2015 something else is what I'm currently working out. And soon I will announce whatever it ends up being, because I will start doing whatever it ends up being, and there's no way to start doing it without announcing it. But it'll probably be on YouTube, my YouTube channel, Teague, Chrystie, and that's what I'll be doing. Everyone else, you know, the occasional podcast, but mostly just our own creative works.
Well, it's been great chatting to you tonight, and thank you for taking the time to sort of answer our many, many questions.
Yeah, man, I'm happy to do it. I'm sorry that you couldn't talk to Brian or Trey or Mike or Eddie or anyone else, and that you're stuck with me.
I contacted Brian, to be fair, but I don't think Brian has understood that Facebook now tells me that he's seen my messages. Which is fine. But,
have you guys taken to that, by the way, where you don't, when you get a new message up there on the top, you don't click on it. Like, plausible deniability until you're ready to deal with it. Yeah.
I know some workarounds, but
I'm not the even though I happen to know the whole sort of history of the show. I am not the show. I'm not like the monolithic representation of what the show is. I think all of the people who have committed serious hours to it, and that's borderline 10 people, would all have different things to say about every question you asked. So that's all just me talking. Just my
Next
experience.
week on the Extended Edition, we'll be talking exclusively to Trey.
Yeah.
Please.
He'll set you straight on all my things.
He did say he wanted to attend his own funeral, so...
Yeah, but he might have just, who knows.
In the meantime, this has been the Extended Edition, not Friends in Your Head, because that's a thing of the past. Visit us on the web at extendededition.net, talk to us on Twitter at EXTEdition, and like us on Facebook. If you would like more episodes of Friends in Your Head, it seems all you
Ladies
have
and
to do
gentlemen, this
is...
has been the Friends in Your Head Network. You can always find more episodes at friendsinyourhead.com. Go to the forum, involve yourself in the conversation. It's a great group of people. It's happening every single week. Twitter.com/friendsinyourhead, Facebook Friends in Your Head, friendsinyourhead@gmail.com. Go to you can buy our shirts. You can give us money. There's a big PayPal button. We're not asking. We're just saying. Holden Hill Design maintain the website and said some weird crap about your sister. Throw Michael some shekels at michaelscottfund.com. And until next time, my name is Teague Chrystie. Brian Fenifter, Michael Dork, Brent Scott, Trey Stokes. This has been What Are You Doing? Movie. Good night. Good night.
And if
I
you
didn't
move
want to
in with
ask, but I'm so glad that happened.
Oh, he said it!
Oh, it's just...
If you move in with Teague, set up some mics, he'll just record something.
Yeah, man.
It'll be Friends in Your Head 2, or Two Friends in Two Heads. I don't know.
Two friends, two head.
Jeez.
Yeah. Two Friends to Your Head. I don't know.
But thank you, guys. This was fun. And thank you for saying a lot of nice things about the show.
Thank you for
Well,
making it.
thanks for paying us.
Yay! Commerce.
Good night. I'm stopping
And
recording.
sorry we didn't end it on a barbershop quartet.
Ow! I'm seriously getting past
Love is a many splendored thing.
There you go. I think you can go to bed now, Tom.
Yeah, I think it's about time. This bitch is crazy now. I'm not even kidding, Teague. She is borderline insane.
Save this.
Wheelsies.
And we're